Hey everybody, welcome to the Art Block. My name is Derek, and we are back with an all-new episode. After missing last week, I just turned 30, and there was a whole lot of chaos in my life, but we are back, and this week I am going to talk about CinemaCon, which just happened very recently, and more broadly to talk about what we as an audience want from Hollywood and what we want out of movies. Everybody has complaints with Hollywood for, yes, various reasons, but there's a whole lot to complain about in that area today. Everybody talks about how everything is a remake, a reboot, a sequel. Everything's a franchise film. It's really a product more than anything else. Every movie is more of a product, and of course that's not necessarily new. I mean, Batman movies were that way back in the 90s, how you had to make sure you could sell toys off of this thing. You could have McDonald's Happy Meals and things like that in conjunction with the film itself, but it feels like everything these days is a product more than a film, more than a piece of entertainment or a work of art. And looking at everything at CinemaCon this year, which if you don't know, it is a convention held every year in Las Vegas, and it's essentially for theater owners. So Hollywood can show what they have coming out in the following year to get everybody excited for everything they've got to release. And so theater owners go there, and they're treated by, the studio executives and mainly these big Hollywood stars to reach out to the distributors and, get them excited about what they have to offer. And this year, everything, of course, is just a giant, product. Everything is, this is a remake of something that was very successful once upon a time. A lot of live action versions of animated things, How to Train Your Dragon and Lilo and Stitch, what I'm referring to there. There's that new Superman movie from James Gunn, which I think looks inexcusably awful. I've been a fan of Superman since I was a kid. I loved the Smallville TV show that got me into Superman, and I haven't really seen a Superman movie that I didn't like to some degree. Some are my favorites, and some are like not the best, but they're at least good in some way and entertaining in some way. I think this movie looks absolutely horrible. It was really the worst part of Minecraft, which I just saw, and I'm going to get into that more later. The worst part of the whole Minecraft experience was seeing that new CinemaCon footage for the Superman movie, which involves Superman just bleeding out of his nose and mouth while his dog is kind of kicking the shit out of him. And there's like Superman robots at his, I can't remember the name of the place right now. I'm going to put that up on the screen. Fortress of Solitude. Fortress of Solitude, that's what it was called. So yeah, I think that looks terrible. There's a Karate Kid reboot. Of course, Karate Kid's been kind of more in the forefront of pop culture these days, thanks to the Cobra Kai show on Netflix. But, there was that Karate Kid reboot like 10 years ago or something with Jaden Smith. That footage was also shown before Minecraft. You have Ballerina, which is a spinoff of John Wick with Ana de Armas. And, I love John Wick, and Ana de Armas has been one of my favorite actors for really about a decade now. I mean, I thought she was phenomenal in Knock Knock, the Eli Roth film, and became a fan of her right then and there. And she's really been the best thing about every movie she's been in. The Blonde film from Netflix, I think, is a great movie all around, but her performance is really the best thing about that movie. And like I said, I love John Wick, and I'm excited for really anything in that universe, but they're hanging their hat on the success of something in the past. Talk about kind of mining nostalgia and, asking people to remember what they liked about a previous iteration of something to get them to come out to the theater again. Now, John Wick is so recent, I don't know if you could call that nostalgia really, but it's, they're reaching for something that was successful previously and not something that is, new and original and going to bring people out for a new thing that they're going to love. Of course, I just mentioned the live action version of How to Train Your Dragon. There is the Mission Impossible, the new Mission Impossible movie, which is supposed to be the final film with Tom Cruise, at least supposedly. There's a Naked Gun reboot, a reboot of a comedy film series from the 80s. And I have to admit, that looks really good. It was Liam Neeson, and it's directed by one of the Lonely Island guys, who I love. So that is exciting, but it's also indicative of how unoriginal Hollywood is. They have to go back to the 80s for a comedy series about like wacky police officers. Like you could create something new, a new cop series where they're funny and ridiculous, but no, you have to have that name recognition of the brand. The Lilo and Stitch live action film, which I just saw the trailer for. I think last night I actually saw Minecraft at a drive-in, which was a great experience. Second time seeing the Minecraft movie. The live action one does not look good to me, and as I said in my Snow White review, I'm a certified Disney hater. But I always loved Lilo and Stitch. Like, I always loved that movie, and I have a soft spot for it. And it's also like watching, it's like, this looks like literally a live action version of like frame by frame the original movie. Now, I realize that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it's being sold as. But to have something that is so, an exact replica of a successful thing, I think that's really kind of sad and discouraging for the industry at large. And say what you will about the Snow White movie, so that movie was not good at all, but you could almost, I'm not saying you could, but almost like congratulate it for doing something different. But Disney is still doing those live action movies because it's so easy to have that name recognition. And there were some reports about them canceling those or putting them on hold after the failure of Snow White at the box office, but it's still going on. Of course, you have new Marvel movies in the form of Thunderbolts and the Fantastic Four reboot, or their reintroduction, or the introduction to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's just so much. There's Zootopia 2, Avatar 3. There's a Freaky Friday sequel after like 20 years that is coming out. Now, I feel like people in general are going to be excited by at least one of these, I think. I mentioned I like the trailer for the Naked Gun reboot. I'm looking forward to Ballerina, the John Wick movie. I guess that's it, but there's still like something I think everybody would be excited for, and I think especially with the Disney movies like Zootopia and the Lilo and Stitch live action, things like that, you're always looking for something to take your kids to at the movies, so it serves its purpose there, but literally everything is some franchise product. Now, I want to get into the Minecraft movie. Now, I'm going to do a full review of this movie because I've seen it twice now, and my personal opinion, I think it's very good. I think it's a very good movie. I think it's funny. I think it's unique, at least for a corporate product like it is, and I think it's like a crowd-pleasing movie. It's just very fun, And, of course, that is the ultimate product movie. I don't want to be a hypocrite in that, but it's done so well. And I think that the director, Jared Hess, who, directed Napoleon Dynamite, Nacho Libre, he has a very specific, offbeat kind of sense of humor. and that really shines through in this movie. And it being based on the most successful video game ever made. There's that McDonald's meal. They have a Happy Meal and like an adult meal for Minecraft, where they have like Minecraft toys and like cards and things like that. And they even have a Minecraft branded hot sauce little pack. It's like the ultimate product movie, but it's good. It's a good movie. I think it is one of the better movies I've seen this year, honestly. Every movie is, trying to execute something, is trying to do, is trying to fulfill the promise of its story or its script or its idea. And if you're trying to make a movie about this giant video game that the world loves, virtually every child in the world is a fan of Minecraft, it seems that way anyway. But if that's what you're trying to do, it did it spectacularly rather. But it gets me to ask the question, is this what we have to look forward to as an audience, and what do we want? Because that whole idea of voting with your dollar, that is real. And so when we go see the Minecraft movie, or the How to Train Your Dragon live action, or Lilo and Stitch, or the Karate Kid reboot, or any of these, you're voting with your dollar. You say, this is what I want to see. Now, it's so hard to sell a movie that's just about people, that's just about regular characters going through something that has nothing tied to a superhero comic book or video game or a series of movies that were once very popular. The Terminator franchise is among the most popular movie franchises like ever. That's why you keep seeing so many versions of them, but I think that it's kind of sad, because that movie was once an original idea by James Cameron. He was a guy who wrote a script because the movie was a good idea. It was an interesting idea, and it made its own movie, which I personally think the original Terminator film is a perfect movie. Not really a fan of any of the movies that followed, but that original movie is great. The Karate Kid was originally just a movie, just an original idea, and now it's been made into this product that you have to replicate over and over and over again instead of creating something new ever. That's what I talked about in my nostalgia episode, talking about how we won't have anything to be nostalgic for, because everything is a product of nostalgia now. Everything is, remember the 80s, remember the 90s. That's all everything is. But I ask you as an audience member, is this what you want? Do you want movies to be 90% product? Or do you want them to be original stories about people, about characters? Of course, it's hard to get a mass group of people excited about a new movie that's just about two people falling in love, or people going through a crisis in their lives. But this has become the industry, that movies are an art form, but they're also just products at this point. Just products. And I just wonder, like, what do we really want? Do we, when we complain about there being no original movies, no original ideas, do we really mean that? Are we really upset about that? Or is that maybe a nostalgia thing as well? Because a lot of the movies I get excited about too are sequels of something. They're, they are franchise things in some way. I frankly think that the best movie I've seen this year, and it's not even close, is Paddington in Peru. That's a sequel, and that is a series that was based on a book series and a toy, but it's beautifully done. And I feel like, filmmakers these days have to rely on, they have to simply rely on, getting work in terms of a franchise in which to, infuse their artistry. They can't just make an original movie about about people or about something that truly inspires them, they have to put that within the context of franchise motion picture. You know, I'm reminded of Todd Phillips when he made the Joker. He wanted to do it because you know, there was no way he was going to make a big impact on anything without doing it in that way. He was remarking when he made War Dogs, when that first premiered, which I at the time thought it was a great movie. I haven't seen it since, but he remarked how he knew that wasn't going to set the world on fire, and he saw a billboard for what at the time would have had to be Suicide Squad that came out, and he just decided to put a real classic like drama in the form of Joker, in the form of a superhero movie. And you know, like the director of Moonlight, which is a great film, Academy Award winner. This past year, he made the Mufasa Disney CGI Lion King movie. These are how our most talented directors are having to spend their careers. That's what's going on. And I feel like, you know, I don't know, I just feel like that's very sad, the state of the industry, but I also think, you know, in terms of the audience, like, what do you want? Do you really want a return to movies like from the 90s where there were so many big theatrical movies that were just about people? Sure, they might have been based on books, but that was different from basing something on a video game or like, you know, a famous like comic book or something like that. That was different, and I think mainly what carried those, you could argue, it was movie star, you know, quality. If you saw a movie with a giant movie star at the time, you saw it because of them probably. And even though it was a story about regular people, you got there because of the star. You know, and of course that doesn't really exist anymore, as I've talked about. But, you know, looking out for the future of the film industry, I can't help but wonder if this is truly what we want as an audience, or maybe we want something different. That is what we hear all the time. But looking at this, I think that the audience is far more comfortable with these big franchise movies. It's really easy to get excited about a movie if you already know you like the source material. You know, it's a lot easier to get people out to see the Minecraft movie when they already love the Minecraft game and everything surrounding it, you know? And I don't know how you can effectively market these smaller movies that are about people and these real human stories. You know, when you see the Oscars, this is the only time you see those movies highlighted. You can see a movie like Anora or The Brutalist or any of these things that are really just human stories that have absolutely no connection to an already established franchise, you know? And I do wish there was a lot more, you know, personal human stories out there. But at the same time, that is not what drives people to the theater. If you want to help movie theaters and help get people out into the theater and support that business model, you know, Anora and The Brutalist aren't going to do that. Minecraft will do that. The Karate Kid reboot is going to do that. The Lilo and Stitch live action, the Zootopia 2, Avatar 3, all of these movies are that's what's going to do it, you know? And if that wasn't the case, I think movie theaters might even be in a more dire spot than they are currently. And that's how I feel about everything. Thank you for watching this. This channel has a very small audience, but an audience that is very vocal about it. Thanks for anybody that has let me know in the comments that you like the videos or you like anything I'm putting out right now. Thank you so much. And I just want to ask you in the comments right now, do you want more movies that are, you know, about regular people? Or do you like having all these franchise movies to look forward to? It's not a bad thing if you say you want, you know, if you want more movies like this, if you like having those big event movies, and do you prefer seeing those smaller personal stories? Do you prefer seeing those like on the Netflix or something? Having like a streaming show where it's just, those little stories versus something in a theater? Do you find it harder to bring yourself to the theater to see something if it's just, a regular story versus, an action movie with a whole lot of merchandise and tie-ins and pre-established reasons to be excited for it? I want to know, because as a filmmaker myself, like looking forward at the future, it seems very uncertain. And when I look at the audience, you might have complaints about something, but you're behaving in a way that shows Hollywood that you like what they're doing, in a way that you like having these giant movies and a very minimal amount of anything else. So let me know what you think, because I'm very interested. And once again, I sorry for missing last week. A lot going on in my life. I'm going to try my hardest not to miss another week again. I've got a new review coming up for Minecraft. I want to talk about that in a separate video. I started putting more shorts on the channel, and hopefully there'll be a lot more content coming out very soon. Thank you all for watching, and as always, what a time to be alive.